When I was a child, I was subtly terrified of mannequins. And I say subtly because I could be close, I could touch them, I wasn't really that afraid, but there was this deep, ever present, unshakable anxiety that I'd look 1 second and all would be fine. But then I'd look back another and they'll have moved or shifted closer. And this was my biggest fear of all, that they'd be looking right at me, right in my eyes, freezing me to my core. We talk about the kind of uncanny valley where something looks so close to human that its few degrees of offness unsettles us deeply. But there's a special kind of uncanny where something walks upright and meets your eyes, but clearly looks so different from humanity that any sign of life is unsettling. So, Five Nights at Freddy's, huh? FNAF. Where do I even begin? A cultural juggernaut, and a surprising one at that, in a way that I'm not sure we all realize. Like, yeah, I know, we all know, we talk about it, it's huge, yeah, we got the movies, we got the books, whatever. But like, do we ever sit around and really think about just how big it is? I mean, I talked about FNAF at work with my elder millennial and Gen X coworkers. That is surreal in a way I have a hard time articulating. Like, I can't even talk about the biggest indie games around with the typical gamer I come across. And I know we all know it's big, but you don't just casually make a SpongeBob. It's effectively created its own genre, it's inspired countless fan games, entirely new series, and I mean, I got it. I got the brain rot. I'm one of them freaks. I hadn't even played these games, but I have a near encyclopedic knowledge of these quirky robots. In its premise and style, I'm absolutely not surprised that it's as popular as it is. But the way it's come about, watching the story grow and unfold before our very eyes, FNAF stands out as one of the most unique pieces of media to follow out there. And as we approach the 10-year anniversary of the release of the first game, I find myself thinking about, well, I guess the entirety of FNAF, but more specific, the aesthetic and personality within the original. What made this indie game cement itself into the history of gaming? This lightning in a bottle game really set the foundation. It has been the basis of a franchise, and it has had an incredibly large impact. I think the designs are full of personality and are one of the largest factors in that popularity. I actually played this game for the first time last year, and despite already knowing a ton about it, I was quite literally shaking when I was playing it. Yeah, I'm a whiny piss baby. And yes, I am afraid of the dark, but it's not just me, and I've played plenty of horror games without this level of fear. It is genuinely a pretty scary game, at least initially. But let's take a breath. Let's take a minute. Let's set the scene. This was before the movies, before the books, before all the noise, before we knew anything, before it was referred to as the acronym FNAF. Let's dive into the quiet intimacy of Five Nights at Freddy's. You open your eyes to find yourself in a dingy, dirty old office. Trash, spider webs, old paper strewn about. It's a disheveled room with two gaping doors on either side. You glance out of them just to see pitch black, no visibility. You immediately feel unsure, unsafe, uncomfortable. I don't want to be here, and I sure as hell don't want to be here alone. Looking around the room, you start to realize you're being stared at. Your eyes pass over them one at a time. A cupcake, posters, these drawings. It's unsettling, ain't it? You then start to familiarize yourself with the tools you have. Harsh lights in the hallways, static-filled cams, that's all you've got. Poorly lit walkways, barely visible shots, black ominous streaks lining the wall. It's gritty, it's dark, it's gross. And the building is quiet. Too quiet. You can't help but feel alone. Listen to the hum in the building. Isn't that isolating? But maybe we aren't so alone. A few seconds into the night and the phone rings. The first night is, well, about getting to know each other. After all, you've just met. You gotta court me before you can stuff me, baby. What are your names? What are your hobbies? what do you like? And we get 2 introductions for the characters. The ones from Phone Guy and what we learn of the characters through gameplay. First, we have Phone Guy, our only non-hostile interaction. He's the closest thing we have to company. On our first night, he welcomes us in and introduces us to the job and to the animatronics. He says it's our job to watch over these robots as they walk around the building. He does warn us that they do get a little quirky, and he tells us a few necessary tips to keep the animatronics at bay. He also adds a little tidbit about some kind of bite of 87. I don't know what that is, but it's some kind of hint to the danger you're in. I mean, they bit off someone's frontal lobe. What the hell's gonna happen to me? That doesn't stay a mystery, since he tells us that the animatronics, they might see us, think we're an endoskeleton, and force us into a suit where we're squeezed until our innards become outards. It sounds like some kind of schoolyard rumor. I barely believe it. Yeah, I heard they stuff you in suits if they catch you at night. Okay, sure, buddy. But after this comforting message, we meet the animatronics in the proverbial flesh. These toony but deeply off-putting figures stand on stage and look out into a dark party room. The camera you see them from sits at their peripheral. You're just getting a peek. You're still relatively safe. But do they seem maybe a little aware? No. You're outside their focus view, and their hollow eyes and empty expressions don't really give away much. They frankly seem pretty lifeless. You probably even spent a decent amount of time looking at them while Phone Guy droned on and on about corporate this and liability that. You watch for a while and there isn't any movement. You close the cameras here or there to conserve power, but you can't help but to compulsively check. You find that there's this sense of calm while watching them on stage. Look at them, all well behaved and in their places. All is fine and dandy. You get your piece, but that's not the end of things. You're only a couple hours into the night and you're starting to realize just how easy it is to burn through power. I mean, I just started the night. How can I have used this much? It's fine. It's fine. They haven't even moved. I can put down the cams for a bit. You drop your cams and that sense of peace you felt immediately evaporates. With the cameras down and the doors open and the lights off, you can't help but feel so exposed, so blind, so in the dark. They're all the way on the other side of the building, and surely they don't move all that quick. But the itch, the urge to check, every second that passes is longer than the last. The waiting, it becomes overwhelming. You have to check. You look around the building, you start to get familiar with the different camera angles, the different shots, back rooms full of empty heads and robotic parts, cameras that don't show a full picture, and in some cases, no picture at all. A piece of a corner there, a side of the room here, a strange, unexplained stage with a sorry, out of order sign. Nothing is straightforward about the views we get. We aren't given omnipresent access to the building. At this point, you've looked around, you've calmed down a bit. I remember the first time the animatronics began to move. For a moment, all is peaceful, but that pit I felt looking at the stage to see one missing. And boom, just like that, your eyes meet from across the room. A wordless conversation, a threat. In nature, eye contact is a threat. It communicates intent. It says, I want something from you. It's subtle, but when the animatronics begin to move around, the ambiance changes to a more threatening tone. Just listen. Do you hear that? From mechanical to otherworldly. All of this with the occasional clanging as the animatronics begin to wander the building. You have to listen in to hear their movements. It only heightens the tension. And now that one is off the stage, you get a true glimpse of just how massive these things are. They look huge, stiff, unyielding, with large plastic pieces, robotic hinges, jaws. They look physically dangerous and threatening. They loom over the tables and decorations of the party room, and as they move about the building, they take up a concerning amount of space. Their silhouettes fill the hallways, and it dawns on you yet again that you're armed with little more than a flashlight and a couple doors. There's a part of you that starts to get a little nervous. You feel a little ill. You want to throw up. I mean, what are you gonna do when you're inevitably toe-to-toe, face-to-face with these beasts? Going from cam to cam, that sense of dread starts to build. Looking at one cam 1 second and then looking back another to find out they've moved, it's that fear of mannequins I spoke about earlier. You lock eyes with one, and suddenly you're in danger from all the rest. You just know they're getting closer. And what makes this fear particularly harrowing is something has to be aware to know when it's being watched. There's a reason that the Weeping Angels are among, if not the most, iconic antagonists in Doctor Who. I, while knowing next to nothing about Doctor Who, knew about the Weeping Angels. I knew about the episodes they appear in, I know how they appear, I know what their powers are, I know what they look like. They're very iconic. And like our animatronic cast, they only move when not observed. They're striking, memorable, and terrifying, and these characters are no different. And this game debuts the iconic main four: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And through the different ways that they interact with the cams, the different ways they approach the room, it all serves to give them very tangible personalities, despite them not saying a word and not really interacting with you, aside from killing you. But they barely move on the first night, and for the most part, feels like a pretty boring, albeit spooky, night of being a security guard. But that all changes a bit in... It's night 2 where things get just a little bit more dangerous. It's here where they're all active and can be split into 2 categories: door and camera animatronics. As door animatronics, Bonnie and Chica are the first that you're going to need to learn how to manage, with both appearing on the left and right of your office respectively. Bonnie, one of my favorites, he teleports around the building and he's the first to target you. He's confrontational, unpredictable, and frankly, cocky. He is so sassy, and I feel like he's very purposefully trying to scare you. Look at the way he looks at you directly through the cameras. It's unnerving. But you do quickly learn something about Bonnie. With all his aggression, he is at the same time very quick to give up. He goes back to hopping right around the building just after being at your door for a few seconds. He is a threat to be sure, but not exactly one with the best strategy. On the other hand, Chica is noticeably less aggressive. Her lack of aggression can make her easy to write off as easy to deal with a slack-jawed expression and eyes that drift off from the camera, disinterested, unfocused. She even gets distracted in the kitchen on the way to get you. And while she's in the kitchen, she's loud, clumsy, uninterested in being sneaky or careful. But once she's back on her mission, you better watch out. She'll park herself outside your door and stubbornly stare you down. She can easily make herself a problem and be the reason you run out of power for yet another night. At the end of the day, they're the easiest to deal with, as you just need to slam the door in their faces. And once you realize this, the night can be a lot calmer than the first. After all, you've gotten a little smarter with your cam usage, and your door defense is ironclad. Neither of these animatronics are truly focused enough. Sure, they're trying to kill me, but I'm clearly not the only thing on their minds. But if either of these two make their way into your office, you won't be able to close the door, and instead you'll start to hear this raspy, wheezing, and groaning, all before being jump scared. They're an unavoidable hurdle for most of the nights, not really needing to be monitored, but constantly defended against. They're a simple threat with a simple solution, and their clumsy approach to killing us is disarming. But now isn't the time to get too comfortable. During this night's phone call, we're told that the animatronics become more active as the week progresses. He specifically warns us to watch the cams and introduces us to our cam threats, Freddy and Foxy. He says Freddy doesn't really leave his stage much, but moves more in the dark, and Foxy will leave his stage if unwatched. For night 2, these two aren't much of a problem, but that isn't the case so much in... Any of the animatronics that interact with the cams seem exceptionally more intelligent. Foxy's one of the first to react to your actions. And maybe I say this because I don't know, I know furries, but I'm really not surprised that Foxy was the instant fan fave that he was. He's a pirate, he's a fox, he's an instant recipe for success. He's playful, a little needy, maybe even a little shy. Step by step, if unwatched, Foxy will begin to creep off of Pirate Cove in stages. At first, when you're a little scared of this newer threat, it's pretty easy to focus on Foxy. You're looking, you keep looking, and it really seems like he's pretty hunkered down in the cove and has no interest in moving. Drop the cam, check for Bonnie, check for Chica. You're honestly feeling pretty confident. You pop those cams open and boom. There he is. You're both caught peeking at each other. You're startled and maybe even a little annoyed. After all, you've been watching him pretty closely, and just look at this thing. Look at how quick he's moving. Whatever. I'm watching you now, you freak. You're not getting me. But as you go through the night, you need to conserve more and more power. And by the time you check into Foxy again, he's just a little closer. And the various poses he makes as he creeps off the stage, they're very playful. And not only that, Foxy is a music lover and can be found occasionally humming. It's one of the only non-outright threatening sounds that an animatronic can make. All of this lends to Foxy not really feeling as malicious or dangerous as the other. And that's why he's got one of the most aggressive strategies. While Foxy's personality seems nebulous and less threatening, Foxy's body and methods are a lot more dangerous. With exposed metal and a large jaw full of rows of teeth, Foxy looks explicitly unsafe. Foxy sits like a slow but very far stretched back rubber band, slowly building tension. When you haven't watched him quite long enough, this hulking beast will sprint at a terrifying speed towards you down the hall. You panic, you rush, you run to hit that button. And what is initially a pretty easy task is now infinitely harder. You made it, just in the nick of time. Foxy leaves, but not before making his presence known with a few knocks at your door. When Foxy runs and knocks, he takes some of your power before leaving, and each time this happens, he takes more and more from each successive knock, from 1 to 6 and finally 11%. Through this knocking, Foxy is the only one that can attack you without killing you. And outside of Foxy, this is probably the first night where the animatronics are concerningly active. They're constantly moving, and it's not strange to have an animatronic parked beside your door for a large portion of the night. Enough movement to scare you, but with just enough wiggle room for power as you'd panic juggling the new characters. It's also likely your first night where every animatronic is active. It's a sickening feeling knowing they're all moving in on you at once. What previously seemed like uncoordinated and unfocused wandering gains a new level of threat as they all start to get closer to you together. The horror in this game is predicated on tension and relief. You sit in the room, tension. You check the cams, relief. The battery starts to drop, tension. You drop the cams, relief. You're sitting in that dark room again, tension. Check the hallway lights, relief. Back to that room again, tension. Yet, let me check them cams again. Relief. Wait, I'm not looking at Foxy. Tension. Check them out. Relief. You're only there for 6 minutes, but it's a frantic juggle the entire night. There is no rest, there is no relaxation. Speaking of no rest and no relaxation, Foxy wasn't the only character we were warned to keep an eye on. We go to check the show stage and where the fuck is Freddy? It is so easy to lose track of him in the commotion. All the movement. But it's on this night where we were told, maybe play dead if we're caught. Maybe we won't get stuffed. I don't know. Maybe it'll work. I can sit still. Maybe they'll play nice. This game is messing with my head. All these sounds, all this attention. I think I'm losing my mind. What's that sound? This is a night that can give you some real trouble, as the animatronics are more active than ever, and we start the night with this message.
Oh, hey, wow, day 4. I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
Maybe we took Phone Guy for granted. Sure, he was never physically there with us, but we had some kind of company, a friend, a mentor, someone who supposedly knew these characters better than we do. And yet the 4 animatronics, they ganged up on Phone Guy and killed him. And if you've managed to avoid being stuffed, it serves as a reminder to that threat that they pose. The message ends, and from that point forward, we're alone with the beast. When he was killed, you heard Freddy's music box jingle, and out of the 4 animatronics, none are more interesting than Freddy. The man himself. He is the leader of the pack, and he makes that more and more apparent as the nights progress. Just a few seconds into the night, and you hear one of the most bone-chilling sounds in the game. A laugh. He is already on the move. The first time you search for Freddy, you frantically scour the cams and wonder where he even is. From one cam to another, you'll hunt around till you have to stop, stare, lean in just a little closer. Is that? Oh my god, it is. 2 glowing dots cloaked in shadows. Peering at you from the dark, Freddy sits back as an unknowable threat, pretty much waiting in the bushes. You start to learn that Freddy never backs down. He only moves forward towards your office, and with each step, he threatens you with a stare. The first laugh sets you on edge, but by the time he's laughed again, you can swear that you can hear the giddiness in it. He's laughing so hard there's a little gasp in it. Easily the scariest. Freddy is patient, calculating, waiting, watching, and as soon as you turn away, he is taking another step closer. And as he does, his laughs echo through the building. He really stands out among the animatronics. Chica is entirely too distractible, spending all her time banging around in the kitchen. Foxy is explicitly stated to not like the camera, not necessarily us. And Bonnie, yeah, sure, he's staring you down through the camera. Yeah, he's staring at you into the office. But Freddy, it felt like he was looking at me. Like the me that's in my room playing video games. He's looking at me, staring me down, and daring me to forget his presence. He's challenging me as an equal. He's got this confident air about him as he approaches your office. He doesn't even wait at your door, just waltzing in and waiting for the right opportunity to jump you. And if your power goes out, all bets are off. He immediately comes to get you with glowing eyes and a haunted music box tune, helpless, vulnerable. You are just praying that you run out the clock. Up until this point, you felt like you were masterfully playing through the night, locking down Foxy at his stage, closing out Chica and Bonnie, keeping a watchful eye on Freddy. The night waged on and your power would dwindle. You're a bit worried. It's just turn 5. Surely you can make it on that sliver of power. Just another minute. Sure. No. But that's it. You got too greedy, too cocky. And with a sickening whir, the lights die. The doors snap open. And after a small pause, Freddy rushes to your office and stands in your doorway and gloatingly begins to sing the aria Toreador from Bizet's Carmen. A not so subtle piece about a bull and his fighter, the Toreador. Toreador, on guard, Toreador, Toreador. And contemplate well, yes, contemplate, as you fight, that a dark eye is watching you, and that love is waiting for you. Toreador, love is waiting for you. And once again, we are silent. We are silent. Oh, what is happening? No more shouts. This is it. No more shouts. This is it. The bull is rushing. While jumping out of its fence, he is rushing. He's entering, hitting. A horse is falling, dragging down a picador. Ah, brave taureau. The crowd is calling. The bull goes on. He comes, hitting once more. This dick is mocking me. Look at this. He knows good and damn well that I am not an endoskeleton. This boy is a stone cold killer. But at the same time, we're equals, rivals. Him, the bull, the beast. Us, the matador, the guard. But our fight isn't over just yet. He may think the audience is on his side, but we sit and we hold our breath as Freddy sings his cocky little tune. They say pride cometh before the fall, because his little tune can easily be the reason you evade him for the night. Freddy will almost inevitably get you, being both cryptic and ever-present. He's a fantastic pseudo-final boss for the game. Freddy is also the nail in the haunted animatronic coffin. There is no way these things are not haunted. What the hell happened here? This night starts with a call unlike any other. It is a backwards and demented excerpt from the Autobiography of a Yogi, a book that explores the idea that life exists in all things. There are no tips. There are no tricks. Survive. It comes with a succinct message. They've killed Phone Guy and you're next. You're alone. But at this point, the animatronics have shown you what they're all about. But we know FNAF is more than what it seems on the surface. That call's a bit strange, right? What called me? And how did they do it? Through the gameplay and through your interactions with the animatronics, you begin to wonder what's wrong with them. Is this some sort of programming bug? What more is there? And you might occasionally see bits and pieces of the history of the pizzeria. When you look through some of the cams, there's a chance you might see newspaper articles replacing some of the typical Freddy Fazbear posters. The 4 articles read, "Kids vanish at local pizzeria. Bodies not found. 5 children now reported missing. Suspect convicted. Local pizzeria threatened with shutdown over sanitation. Local pizzeria said to close by year's end." They detail out a story where first 2 but eventually 5 children are lured by someone with a mascot costume into a back room and go missing. While the bodies were never found, someone was later convicted for this, but the company struggles to cope with the bad publicity. The animatronics start to stink and leak liquid that some reports seems like blood and mucus. Someone even likens the animatronics to reanimated carcasses. The complaints over sanitation were the true nail in the coffin. Unable to convince customers to return to the pizzeria, they're forced to close, with the CEO stating, "These characters will live on. In the hearts of kids, these characters will live on." A normally innocent statement made all the more sinister by the fact that these characters might actually be living on somehow. Suddenly, the picture starts to become a little bit clearer. A place of joy tainted by violence, death, and decay. Haunted animatronics and ghostly laughter, it all makes more and more sense. The way they twitch, the way they seem compelled towards you. And these aren't the only odd things we see. Occasionally, when you look at Cam 2B, it can swap between 3 images. A normal poster of Freddy, one where Freddy has his head ripped off, and lastly, a close-up image of Freddy accompanied by a child's laugh. Once you put down your cams, your blood freezes. It's in the room with me. With a slack-jawed face, its slumped-over form stares at you with hollow eyes. A moment passes before your screen is filled with images and text in all caps that reads, "It's me." Afterwards, you get a jump scare and it forcibly closes out your game. That's it. Your final place of peace has been violated. By this time, the office is your personal bubble, and it's sitting right there in front of you. And the subtle playground rumor-esque understanding we had of Golden Freddy was a beautiful thing that cannot be recreated. Keep in mind, this was before we knew any details. This was still the era of wondering if Phone Guy was the killer, and this is way before any Purple Guy made his debut. I mean, we didn't even know concretely that the animatronics were haunted. Golden Freddy was this terrifying, fourth-wall-defying entity that appears in front of you, scares the shit out of you, and then crashes your game. It's cryptic, offers no answer, and is a satisfying microcosm of how the story of this entire game is handled. Every character is engineered to scare you, whether it's through confrontation, tension, a direct threat, or getting right in your face. These animatronics don't just grab your attention, but demand it. The jump scares, they do wear off. Yes, they do. But I do truly think these are the best horror characters I've ever encountered. They see me. I play other horror games, and yeah, sure, you're ugly. And I guess you're a little scary, but I can so clearly see that you're a bundle of ones and zeros. An unfeeling entity waiting for me to enter your cone of vision. That's not life. But these characters, they've got goals, they've got wants, they've got history. The entire building has an implied dark history and a story that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It makes you wonder why you've even decided to come back after the first night, let alone after the 4th night. I mean, there's gotta be a reason, right? We finally get our check for this night, and there is no way. There is no way in hell. We did all this for a whopping $120. Oh, and beautiful. Not only did we get underpaid to go through all this stress, but the icing on the cake, if you complete the custom night, you get fired. For tampering? Why the hell would we tamper?
Oh, I don't know how they're gonna expand on the concept, but either way, they are awesome. Whoever made the Scott Cawthon, you're awesome. So thank you all so much for watching. Prepare for the 6th night.
It is not 5 nights at Freddy's without more. FNAF can't exist the way it does without the community that it has built. I specifically brought up the tampering note because I think that was it. This is what made us crazy. We knew there had to be a reason, and from that point on, we were obsessed. Through its characters and mystery, this game garnered a huge, passionate following. And without this fan base, it wouldn't be a fraction of the media powerhouse that it is. From artists to theorists to game devs, people immediately jumped on and built a community of art and tier lists and robots and movies and games and clothes and stuffed animals and etc. and everything you can think of. If someone can make it, there's a FNAF version of it. And this whole script is chock full of we's, us's, royal you's. It's us. It's shared. It's me. It's you. It's personal. It's communal. Yeah, maybe the lore feels like we're trying to hold soup, but like, isn't that what we like about it? It gets messy. From this game, we've seen a story written and rewritten in real time. While FNAF may be currently in its height of popularity, it was here in the beginning where things were so passionate, so intimate, when we were all on our hands and knees in the dirt, digging for the tiniest of clues in trailers and darkened imagery and source codes. It was messy, but it was a fun ride. And sometimes someone will ask me about the lore or complain about its complexity, which, valid. But it's not about it being complete. It's about the journey, not the destination. It's about how personal it feels to play FNAF. It's the feeling of being watched, encroached on, underpowered. This game plays on your most animalistic fears. The fear of being watched from the bushes, hunted. It's a little beautiful how such an animalistic reaction is what connects us. It might seem ridiculous when we get to time-traveling ball pits, illusion disc, Fazgoo, Impreg. There's a lot in FNAF. But this game is surprisingly real. And that's it. That's what makes the uncanny so terrifying. This office is made all the more scarier, knowing that it looks like a place I've been. It's just a regular, dirty old office with a couple of hallways. When something almost human, almost alive, when it's almost, there's something in my brain that says, oh, it could happen. And it could happen to me. I'm probably not alone in this, but I'm afraid of something unknown around me being more aware than I realize. So yes, FNAF is more than Fazgoo and mommy robots. It's your deepest fears. It's your favorite animal. It's a shared mystery. A third place. It's us. We're FNAF. If you watch to the end, thank you. Seriously, it means a lot to me. And if you enjoyed what I had to say, subscribe to the channel. And if you want more FNAF, I did recently make a 5 Nights at Freddy's Fake-A-Mon Pokemon character video. Check that one out. And if you'd like to help out the channel, I'll have my Patreon linked in the description and pinned in the comments below. Thank you.